What's up, guys? This is Natalia. I'm in my car heading to the church for Sunday worship, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the importance of building connection and relationships as musicians. See, when I was younger and I was on like a younger phase in being a musician, I had this spidey sense that building that connection and relationship with fellow musicians was important, and that it was something that was good for our mental and spiritual health, but it was also important for what it means to be worship musicians, that having genuine friendships with the musicians around you was something that was going to enhance how we worshiped God during a service or even outside of that. And because I came from a church that was very transactional in nature, I never really had that when I was coming up as a musician, except for when it was with family or some isolated case. And the church as an infrastructure didn't necessarily allow for that to take place. And I would see my brother, who is also a musician, have that relationship and connection with the people on his worship team. And I saw how it enhanced their worship, and I saw how good it was for them to have a meal together and to be able to just kick it outside of their time on doing worship, and how it contributed to their well-being, and it ultimately benefited the church. And whenever I saw that, I was like, man, I have a longing for that, right? To be able to have genuine friendships with the people that we come together with to worship God, right? Now I'm a couple of years removed from that situation, and I've been a musician at a different church for about a year and a half-ish. No, actually, it's gonna be 2 years next month. And you know, the positive thing is that we have we get along very well. We come together to worship God, and we can just kick it, right? And the space where most of the worship team, especially the musicians, come together to kind of kick it and hang out and play music and just vibe off of each other is when we come together on songwriting team meetings. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I realized that was kind of the place for us to come together and just kick it and see what's in each other's hearts, how through their songs, how do they see the world, how do they view worship, and also to be able to play to to kind of vibe off of each other. And it is a place where we bond, right? And it is a place where we don't have what I call the almighty metronome track in our ears. We don't have something that's outside of us that we have to vibe first before we vibe with each other. And in my last video, I was sharing how our church did kind of like a church swap, which was ultimately more of a platform swap. And one of the things that I left with was my dynamic with the drummer musically was the closest thing that I got to a friendship that I have with a fellow musician back in Puerto Rico who's kind of like a little brother, who, every once in a while I would go to him and his mom's house, and I would be in piano, he would either be singing or in the cajon, and we would just choose songs and we would just kick it. And we had a really genuine friendship where we didn't just do music, but we talked about life, right? And when I was, and I would throw songs at this friend and he would throw rhythms at me, and we would just vibe off each other. And last week at that service, the musical chemistry with the drummer felt like I could throw anything and everything at him, and I did, and he just vibed with it. But then in the middle of the songs, he would throw things at me, whether it was as subtle as a well-timed hi-hat, or whether it was I'm gonna do like a snare build, and I vibed with that and I flowed with that as well. And I realized that I missed that, right? I missed the ability to be in worship, not have an almighty metronome, and just be able to vibe with the people around me, and have that be accompanied by genuine connection and relationship, even if on a minimal level, and be able to have that enhance the worship that we do. And so that's my stance on why building relationship and connection is important for worship. Has to do with how it improves our unity and how we model unity to the congregation. It is something that allows us to be freer to focus on worshiping God and being able to not just play to the best of our abilities, but to play in a way that we vibe with the other person, so that we can give God our best worship, our best praise, because ultimately what we do is for God. And not only does God deserve our worship and our praise, but God deserves the best version of our worship, the best version of our worship and our praise. And so being able to not just have worship have the transactional element of we're just coming together and and we're just playing and we're playing for God and then we just go home, but do it within the context of genuine relationship and friendship and camaraderie and seeing each other with the highest regard and respecting both the skills that we have and also our limitations is something that is very important and is something that we need as musicians to be very intentional about doing that, because if we're able to have connection and relationship with each other in the way that God intends, we will, like, everybody benefits from it. And it allows for that infrastructure to be set in place, not just for us to be the best version of ourselves, but also to be able to take new people along and be able to have them develop in the healthiest worship ministry environment as we possibly can, by being able to model not just the technical skill set side of being in worship, but also be able to model the how does it look like to be a healthy musician individually, but also as a worship team outside of Sunday service.